Welcome to the Fit Affiliate podcast, where we talk about behavior and behavior-based conversations as they relate to CrossFit affiliate owners and coaches. My name's Lisa Hetherington, and I'm your co-host. Sitting alongside me are Tony and Chuck, the founders of Fit Affiliate. And welcome to another episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. And today we're very excited to have the one and only Denise Thomas in the hot seat. How are you, Denise?
I'm very good, Lisa. Thank you. How are you?
Very well. Those who've been around the CrossFit landscape for a while should be very familiar with Denise through her amazing lesson planning content and seminar staff extraordinaire. And I did the online level 1 recently, and you were one of the presenters on that. So I feel like I had you for a couple of hours in my office. So lots of fun there. And of course, joined by Tony, who has named himself
coming to you live from a dog cage. I am in a dog cage, so that's why you guys see that I am late. And yes, I am literally in a dog cage. It's an 8-foot dog cage because my dog had knee surgery. So I'm sitting on the floor, lounging like a scumbag, but it's okay because my dog beats me.
It's okay.
But I was late. And I had to download things.
I support
no one can say that at Fit Affiliate we, filter things and don't keep it real because she's so peaceful. Here we are real, and Tony's, got a dog on his lap, and we're very, very dog friendly, and we no filters. This is just how we are.
There was no way I was missing this recording with Denise because I've been bugging her to get on here. So she's busier than I am. So we're going to make it work one way or the other.
That's not true, but I'm very happy to be here. And Tony was emailing me, and he's like, "Did you get my email?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I got it." I've been excited about it too. But I like you even more now, Tony, that you're a massive dog lover. So I support you being in a cage.
That's probably an understatement. I don't want to always be in a cage because a cage is a cage, even if it's a gilded cage. But for the next 10 days, I will be in this gilded cage with my dog, with Beatrice.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people that would like to constrain Tony to said cage, but
All right, Lisa, we're moving on.
All right. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to my call later. It'll be good. So, Denise, it's a good opportunity to chat to you about some of the, as you know, we're very passionate about the affiliate owners and coach landscape and protecting that and helping, them being as successful as they can. And I know one of your passions is that coach development space and, helping coaches run the best classes that they can. So this is a great chance for us to chat to you about, where you're at in that space and things that you've got on the boil and some of your perspectives on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the service we provide, right? Is the coaching, and no matter how good the gym looks and how clean it is and what the programming looks like, if the coach can't take that program and make it come alive, it's not going to be as successful. That being said, the CrossFit coach's journey is long and it takes time, and you don't know what you don't know, and you have to put in the time. And like anything, really, anytime you want to become an instructor, it's hard, whether it be soccer or skiing or rock climbing. And then you take what we have, and we're so broad, general and inclusive, right? That's our thing. That's how all this variance is. There's no way that there's a fast track for this. So it's important that when you start, that you start on the right foot, and you don't try to run before you can walk, and know you're going to make mistakes. And I think giving people steps along the way is going to not only make them better, build the foundation, but they're going to enjoy it more. I mean, nobody wants to step up in front of a class and just feel stressed the whole time. So there's definitely some things that we can do. Like we do it as an athlete, you start with the fundamentals, and then you progressively do more reps and more weight and go faster. And it's the same journey with a coach.
And I guess that's where things have changed as well over time. I remember when I started coaching in 2013, it was just like, hey, you'd be good to run a class. And next thing you're just in front of this class and you've been emailed the program the week before and you're like Googling movements and stuff. And you're like, I just got to fill an hour with these things. And how do I juggle this? So
there's still a lot of that, I think, still currently happening. And I think, I guess, one, I don't like to talk now because I'm very insecure about the lack of regal accent that I have. Or maybe I'm the one with the accent now. But there's very much a personal agenda in me bringing Denise onto this podcast. One, I have a lot of really great friends that I've collected in my travels over the years. And Denise is definitely one of the more interesting ones. So she was always a long-term intentional guest that we're going to bring on here. But primarily, and I think Denise, you might know this because you've been through the seminar. For years, I stood at that whiteboard teaching the gymnastics seminar at the close of it, basically professing that what marks an expert coach from a novice coach is their ability to write an effective and engaging lesson plan. And you kind of took that thing and ran with it, not because of me, but you became sort of the embodiment of, and I don't even know if you know this, but like basically I forever was like, if you don't know what to do, please go find DT. And if you don't know who she is, it's not the workout, just go find Denise Thomas. She will help you with your lesson plans. And so the main reason that I wanted you on here is that, one, I've always been very a big fan of the work that you've done with such an overlooked and massively important part of the coaching process, especially your ability to deliver a class. But the other side of it is that obviously you're endlessly fascinating. You have a very cool accent, but it's really mostly that I like to bring guests on here that, one, are good friends of mine because it gives us all an excuse to catch up, because naturally we're never in the same part of the world at the same time. But one of the cool things for us is that just bringing people in who have taken unconventional but conventional career paths. And so like a lot of that is watching how like people like yourself and EC and Barbara and other people that we've had on here who have taken the professional coach journey, and you've taken your own sort of, path with it. You've become successful. I think you've become this identifiable embodiment of success. And I think that's why it's important to bring people like you guys on here, because there's this general belief that like you take your L1, maybe your L2, now you're a coach. Now you go focus on the other things, right? And like you guys are the true embodiment of like, no, if you never stop learning, the journey never stops. And so I think it's very fun for us, at least hopefully for the audience, to see like, affiliate ownership is fantastic. I encourage everybody to engage in that, but like, it's not the only route. And especially if your goal is actually to become like a really, really great coach, it might not even be even the right route for you. There's plenty of other paths for you. So that's why I wanted you on here for that. Two, I know you have a lot of things going on. I want to talk about all those things, but three was mostly that I wanted to just tell you up front that like, I'm your biggest fan and I've talked about you for years, and I just don't even know if you know that, but now you know that.
Well, I'm happy I know that, because that makes me feel good. It builds my ego, Tony, and
that's what I'm here for.
I took a gymnastics course with you, and it was I love gymnastics, by the way. I wish I knew more about it. Sure. To your point, Lisa, about you used to just Google a video, and I still do that now. I still go CrossFit gymnastics, pistol, CrossFit gymnastics, handstand walk, and I'm like, I'm still in it. I did it literally 2 days ago because I wanted to see if there was anything out there that I could steal. And now, whereas before there was a couple of folks, right? There was like Jeff Tucker back in the day, like way back, and Cole Paoli and Dave Durante and like some of those.
Go way back with like Roger Harrell too, like even way back. That's like me being in the community.
No, for sure. And now, and they had such good things. And now there's so many really great tips out there from people that might not have the name and the lights and the glamour, but they're just really good. Like we're in a place now where there's just a lot of information, and I just think it's fantastic. And I encourage people to always do that. Always be looking.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things too about gymnastics particularly is I think it gets pigeonholed a lot as like the sport and the modality of it itself, but like, where I think people end up gravitating towards, and I don't even know if they understand it or know it to be the reason, but gymnastics is just behavior, right? Like it's taking human movement, identifying it as perfection, and then seeing where it is that you fall short of that level of perfection, and then understanding what is the limitation between you and that standard, right? And so through that medium, there is no shortage of ways to accommodate and help people get to that point. But I think what people often end up understanding about gymnastics, it has less to do with the actual movement, the pull up, pistol, etc., as much as to do with what is the struggle for me here? How do I remove that struggle, and how do I get to there? And it's very binary in the sense of gymnastics that like, I just want to be able to do my pistol below parallel. But when you understand the mechanism that is the purity of gymnastics, that's the thing I think that draws so many higher level coaches and longer term CrossFitters to it, is that there's something there that suggests that it's bigger than the actual physical movement. And I think that for me was why it was so easy for me to travel for over a decade talking about this singular modality of CrossFit. Because for me, I wasn't, and you took the seminar, I wasn't showing up talking about pistols or pull-ups at all. We were talking about human behavior, right? Like, you know what this looks like. Why are you not able to get there? How do I help you? Have you tried just being in the position? No. Oh, let's start there, right? And so I think that for a lot of people like yourself, they get that point, but you're right. It has created this, there's this order of magnitude of cues and tips and coaches out there, which I think are fascinating, because I think more and more people through the CrossFit space are stumbling onto the understanding of behavior through physical movement. And I think gymnastics as a modality and CrossFit has less to do with force potential and intensity and contractile potential of the muscle, as much as it is, that's the medium through which we get to really truly affect like the neurological aspects, the behavioral parts of fitness. And that's just me done ranting now. So sorry about that.
No, I love it. And it makes me want to get on another call and talk more about that for sure.
Deal. Anytime. You got my phone number. You can just blow me up. Although you don't, and I'm very sad
anytime
about
you want to dig deep under the hood and get into the emotions of it all, I'm in.
I have to come out and go to dinner with you guys, because I also would like to see Ash as well. So I'll come out there one of these days.
She says hi, by the way.
Hello. So all right, I want you to tell everybody. I mean, everybody, I feel like at this point knows Denise Thomas. At least you should. If you don't, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm just kidding. But tell. I guess let's start with your background. When did you find CrossFit? How long you've been doing CrossFit? How did you end up not only as a red shirt, but also becoming this scion of the lesson plan? Tell us a little bit about the background of Denise.
Yeah, well, I'll try and keep it short. I was a soccer player. I played international soccer, and I found myself in New York City through a scholarship, working at a sports performance facility called Velocity. And in there, I met a guy that now he owns Thunderbro. You know, Dave Lipson, and he was
like
doing
multiple guys now at this point. He's kind of expanded into.
He's just gigantic. But huge. Dave has been he's honestly been like a part of a lot of the really good decisions I've made in my career, and one of them was getting into CrossFit. And long story short, that he put me through a workout, and we ended up becoming very close and doing the level 1 together, level 2 together, the Olympic lifting courses and all these things. And Dave actually got onto CrossFit seminar staff. And he turns to me, he goes, "You should do it too. You'd be really good at demonstrating," which was funny to me now, because I was a horrible squatter back then. I'm not even that great now, but I was worse back. He's like, "You could do that." And I'm like, "Really? You think so?" And I wasn't coaching CrossFit at that time. I was doing this sports performance work, running like boot camps, working with athletes, but I would start to put CrossFit into it. So I was like, well, why not? Maybe I'll give it a go. So I somehow got talking with, managed to get some FaceTime with Nicole Carroll at the 2010 sectional. And back then it was, this would never happen now, but she's like, "Yeah, send me an email. We'll get you set up." I was like, okay. I was like, done. So I did, and I showed up, and I actually went through 3 internships. And on my 3rd one, I got the come back in 6 months. And I was like, and it was the right call. I did things wrong, that I kept getting interrupted. But somehow I got an email the Monday after that weekend, and it was from Dave Castro. And he's like, "Can you come back next weekend? We want you to try again." I was like, okay. And I'm like, I don't know how much better I can get in 7 days, but when I go there, I'm going to give it everything I've got. So I got there, and I did the thing on day 1. And I remember John Gilson came up to me and Pat Sherwood. They were like, "Why are you trying to be like everybody else? Just be yourself. You're here because of who you are, and not necessarily, the technical complexities." And I was like, okay. So the next day I was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to just correct the crap out of everyone. And I'm going to acknowledge it, and I'm going to be excited, and I'm just going to be like an animal, like a wild animal. And so it was back then, it was like the med ball clean and the push jerk review on day 2. And I got the thumbs up, and then I waited for the email, and I got on staff. And I still think back now to, if I would have woke up and opened that email, and it would have been the opposite, like, "This is not for you. Thank you so much." And I'll never forget opening that email and getting that thumbs up. It was like God, it gives me goosebumps now. And
Yeah.
and then from then on, that was like October 2010, I just kept, working through CrossFit, doing seminars, traveling all over the world. It was fantastic. Made my way to the Flowmaster role. And then also obviously level 2s. And it was really in the level 2s where we started to identify some holes in coaching in the affiliates. And it was mostly just because people would come up to us. And when I say us, I mean Austin Maliolo, who I've worked with, since 2010 till now. Yeah. And they were like, how do we get better? Like, how do we get better in a class? With level 1, we get it, the level 2, but there's really nothing in between. Mm-hmm. And so this must have been around 2015 when this happened. Also that year, so I'll just come back. I always write lesson plans. Always. If I don't, I'm going to talk a lot. It's going to, I'm going to have fun, but it's not going to go well. So I write because I want to focus. I want them to know the focus. We're all in the focus. It's going to be great. Actually, Austin and some of the other coaches would laugh at me because they're like, "Oh, do you have your lesson plan? Show me your lesson plan." And they didn't write them. They would like have something in their head, but they didn't write them. And I was like very about these lesson plans. So I thought to myself, well, if I write lesson plans and it helps me, maybe I could create an account on Instagram and other people might find that and it might help them too. And I got this idea from not Tony, so you're on my mind, Tim Ferriss. I know he's on my mind. And he said he wrote his books because he wanted to scratch his own itch. He wanted a resource that he could go to and pick the most brilliant minds. So I'm like, if I was a new coach, or even not new, just somebody that felt stagnant, I would want to go somewhere and just look at something that somebody else is doing. So that's where DT lesson plans came from, was this. And I didn't really care about who saw it and who didn't. If one person saw it, then it served its purpose and it held me accountable. And then from that, we started the coach development program.
I love it. You did a really good job of putting like an entire life's worth of experience into like a 10-minute summary there. It's almost like you may have done that before. Two things. Well, a bunch of things. One, I actually had that flip-flop. I had no idea that Dave was responsible for you. I thought this whole time I've always thought it was the other way around. And you also reminded me that I should drag him on here, but I'm gonna need a bigger screen.
Multiple each
level. Yes, literally. We're gonna have to put it in 4 episodes too, because I don't know how I'll ever get him to stop talking in 45 minutes. So no, that's funny to me. I'm like, see, I've known you, I feel like forever, and I was like, oh, this whole time. I love everybody's backstories. I think one of the most fortunate parts of my life was the fortunate timing that I had when I found CrossFit, because I think for so many of us it was like right place, right time. Like you said, being able to fire off an email to Nicole and you got a response. Like it was the same thing for me. Like I was able to just fire off emails to Rip, to Tucker, to Greg, and like you would get responses. Or really in our generation, it was the forum, right? You could just slide in to their inbox and they would. And for me, when I was up and coming, that was the coolest thing. I was like, these amazing coaches would just give and give and give, because up until CrossFit's exposure, what you knew as a coach was like proprietary. We didn't become open source in the coaching community until CrossFit came on the scene, and they were just like, no, once you learn something, there's an obligation to share that thing. And I don't think that a lot of people realize, because so many people are like post CrossFit born, right? They're in that post CrossFit era where like they're used to that being a thing. But if you were pre CrossFit, if you knew something, you didn't share it, right? That was like your niche. Like you thought that made you valuable. And so like, in the gymnastics world, coaches would literally go to their grave with these, quote unquote things that they thought that they knew better than other people. And so I was very enamored by that. And I always loved the backstories of people, because there's definitely a commonality for most of them where it was like right place, right time. But the other thing that you said in there that I think was much more afforded to us in the beginning was the importance of being yourself. I think a lot of coaches, maybe it's just because we've been around for a long time, but I think there was more of a freedom where like all of us, like there was something to grow into, so to speak, where it was like, I can see, it's funny to know like the coming of age story of Denise now, because like you are very tenacious. Like I know you to be this bubbly, very lively person in the room. And it's funny to think about you in those internship processes trying to be not that version of yourself. And that has to have been like, I'm so uncomfortable. What was that like?
Well, I didn't know I didn't know that was what was happening. And again, I really didn't know that much about CrossFit when I initially interned, but I'm very hardworking, and I'll study and I'll memorize things, and you're like, this is what is expected. All right, well, I'm going to do what I need to do to get that. Because remember back then in like early 2010, there wasn't as many seminar staff around. So, I mean, where was I going to get my information? So I went down to CrossFit Virtuosity in Brooklyn with Keith Wittenstein. And Keith and I actually did our journey together. And I asked Rob Miller in Delaware Valley. He helped me. I went all over just to get somebody in a red shirt to watch me run air squats or watch me run the snatch breakout or something. So when I showed up there, I was like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I thought I was being me, but I would watch the others and I'm like, well, that's how Pat's doing it. Okay, that's how Joe Alexander's doing it. I should try and do that. And ultimately what they were looking for was the it thing. And once I just let go of trying to fit into this mold, and this is what I'll tell people now on staff is like, coach like you actually want to make them better. Like them being better in a squat means everything to you. And I guarantee you'll be like 20% better coach, just that. Because you'll be looking and you'll be scrutinizing it. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go out there and have fun. And I did. And I was the person that you said. I was like bubbly and making jokes and like having fun. And they were like, that's what we were looking for. And it was just very eye-opening is how you do lose yourself sometimes in the process. But good leaders and good mentors know how to pull the best out of you for sure.
Yeah, I think that like it's an unfortunate part. I maybe it's just a necessity that every coach has to go through, right? Because like in the beginning, there's just such an overwhelm. There's such a just large amount of information to consume and remember and recite. And I think what's interesting, and one of the things that we've sought to try to solve for to some degree with the $1 Million Coach program is essentially that. Like, how do you there's no shortage of access to information. Like, especially due to the fact that like CrossFit is quite literally laid it out in 4 levels for you, right? Like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like it can't get more literal, but we all know a lot of people can get through all those levels and they still find themselves absent of really where they're at in that journey, right? And so like trying to get them to understand a big part of that is very clearly, what is your it factor? Who are you? What is your niche? What is your worldview? What is that unique perspective that you bring to the floor? Like, I don't care about your ability to understand the points of performance. That's the given, right? That's the standard. That's where we all start from. Like, how do you do that? How do you deliver that? And where do you fall in that journey as a coach? And I think that it is fascinating to watch people start to stumble into it. I don't know how most of them come into it. No doubt about it. Through the internship process for the HQ, there's definitely like a system that isn't present there where like you watch people just go into that internship and come out the backside. They get chewed up. I mean, most don't get out the backside, but if you do get out the backside, there's so many characters on the staff now. Like all of you guys have your own like identity. You're like your own comic books. Maybe that should be a cool thing. We should just get everybody with a red shirt to have their own comic book series. Like Denise's comic book would be fascinating. But anyway, so and that aside, now I'm going to go off on this tangent about that. So lesson plans became a thing that became like, sort of like your passion project. Now it's essentially kind of blown up a little bit more. What is it about lesson plans that you think that most people get wrong? If I was to move into like an actual like tangible failure point in people's lesson plans, aside from just they don't do them.
Yeah, there's many reasons, but I think that it could be, and I'm speculating, obviously I don't know, but it could be that the plan is supposed to help you execute the thing. So don't put it in the plan if it's not going to help. And maybe this, quite honestly, separate side note, most people are planning because they're trying to solve a math equation for how much stuff they've got to try and get in, which is a whole separate podcast. But
yeah,
I think so. As an example, today I did deadlifts and burpees, and my plan today was I want them all to understand like what we're doing here today. And my plan is going to be built around a close bar makes for a strong spine, right? For the deadlift, a close bar makes for a strong spine. So everything that I did building up to that deadlift was surrounded with that. We did some banded PVC work, and they were connecting to it. And that was it. That was the focus, was let's just keep that bar close, and let's figure out when that bar wants to wander away, and have that be the thing. And not just putting that as your plan, but writing everything, writing all the points of performance for the movement, writing all the execution points, and then being like, well, what was that thing I wanted? And I got to teach everything. No, we have them forever. Like, let's just pick one thing today that's going to help decrease risk and increase performance, and that they have a good time, and let's make them really good at that. And so I would say that I think maybe not thinking about why you're planning, like what is your plan actually supposed to be doing for you so you can help them.
I love that. It's admittedly, every time I would deliver that note at the end of the seminar and be like, what separates a great coach from a novice coach, you could see them wait on bated breath, right? They were going to be like, it's going to be, and I was like, lesson plan. They were like, what the fuck? Right? Like, they didn't realize, because for most people, they're just like, isn't that like the thing you do to make sure you don't go over on time, or like you don't end too soon? I'm like, and that's exactly why it separates good from great. And I think that, inside what you just said is that intention dictates action, but the absence of intention leads action to distraction, right? And I think that, like, for you, setting that intention is so very clear and so very obvious that most people just don't start that way, right? Like, I think in the teaching world, it's commonly referred to as backwards integrated design, BID, but like, that's really all it is. Most people, though, do the opposite, right? They fill up the whole class and they're like, look at what I did today, right? You're like, great. Nobody knows there is no intention in that class. Therefore, if we don't have an intention, right, we can't dictate the actions. But most importantly, if the intention is absent, how do we guarantee that what you did today was going to work in the bigger picture of things? And I think, in CrossFit, that's such an overlooked thing because it is constantly varied. It is random, right? It's all those things. So people are just like, if I just do the hard thing every single day, I'm going to get better. And the answer is maybe, right? But like, are you measuring? Are you testing? And is there a bigger intention behind the whole thing? And hopefully most coaches know that. But I think that's why I think for me, the lesson plans become that place where, it's essentially your ability to rethink, right? Like, you write out your lesson plan, you're like, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing today, right? Like, without that point of self-reflection, that ability to rethink or think again, it's such an absent thing. And my fear in that is that so many coaches don't have to. Now, there's great resources like CAP and everything out there now, and I'm like, please follow CAP because it'll show you what like good looks like, but please try your own attempt first, right? So you can understand, like, oh, I'm going to come up short. And having, I think for me as a lesson plan, a big point of observation was with Nicole Christensen. I'd spent some time out there with her at Roots, and I was fascinated. I was like, wait, all of your coaches write the lesson plan? That's weird. Like, you are like she's like basically a deity in the CrossFit world. Like, is that a thing? And she's like, yeah, everybody gets their own day. And then everybody gives feedback. And I was like, Eureka. Like, it's always been right there for so many people. And then you walk into a gym, like, your coaches write lesson plans? They're like, no, I do, because I'm way better than them. I'm like, well, no doubt. How are they going to catch up? They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. The intention sets the actions. And it's just fascinating. So I think for me, it was like that one polarizing thing. I was like, can you write a lesson plan? You can never be perfect at it, right? It can always get better. You can always do a better job. And that's why your Instagram was always so great, because like even you were critical of yourself and like where you could improve, and like you could watch those lesson plans, even the posts get better. But yeah, maybe I nerd out a little bit too much over it, but that's the obligation, right? Like, when people pay, hundreds of dollars a month, I don't think, you should be taking that class for granted, especially if the coach who stands in front of the room, especially if you're trusted by, an affiliate owner, or you are the affiliate owner. Just be like, oh, they're just here to get a score. I'm like, that's because you're not giving them something else to focus on.
Yeah. There was a lot in there. And I think a couple of things that come to mind are, well, one, the plan is supposed to help you be successful in the workout, right? So how you build it, the process is important. And one of the things I think that maybe newer lesson planners do, which I know I did back in the day, was I would go from 0 to 60, and the general warm-up would be non-essential. It would be like, why would I be doing that? Just because I have to do it? Well, no, if the workout's longer today, maybe I have to blend it. And so we do this, you take your intro and your post-workout off, because that has to happen. And then you figure out, well, how long is the workout? All right, this is the time I have to start, little break. And then what you're left with is like what I call the magic. It's kind of, this is where I think it separates great and good in some ways, because the thought process of going backwards for like, all right, well, what needs the most amount of time? If it's a really heavy lift and complex, I've got to put time in there. And unfortunately, that row is going to have to take a little bit more of a back seat. And eventually you're just negotiating with these movements based on safety, performance, capacity of the class, size of the class, length of the workout. And you can't have your cake and eat it too, which is why you're planning outside in, so you can ask yourself, what is possible? And that will lead you to the intention. And your point with Nicole, at Reebok, at Reebok CrossFit One, first of all, we all programmed. It wasn't always that case, but we got to a point where everyone does 3 weeks, and you discuss with the programmer that is handing it off where their thoughts were. And then that programmer writes lesson plans for that 3 weeks, and they will go out at 5 o'clock the day before. And the goal, the condition was they're there and you can use them, but you don't have to. You can write your own.
Correct.
But if there's something in there that's bolded as this must happen, that has to happen, because the reason why this workout's being programmed is for that intention. And then when we switched to hand plan, they would send lesson plans, and to your point about writing your own, I would write my own lesson plan, and then I would look at what hand plan did, and then I would see if, what I like, and I'd be like, oh no, I'm going to do my own thing. Or I'd be like, oh wow, that's really cool. I never thought about that. I'm going to put that into my plan. Or maybe I was like, wow, hand plan's way better plan than my plan today. Mm-hmm. But I still did the work of doing my own thought process. And that's how I recommend you use CAP too, is have it as a guide, but don't just follow it blindlessly. That's a new word, blindlessly.
That's all right. We'll blame it on you, your accent. You can do that. It's an old English word, actually.
Blindlessly. We know. We share the same king. We share the same king, Lisa.
That's right. That's right. We can create anything here.
Yes, you can. Well, I got Meghan Markle to blame, so you guys hate me. Anyway, so I love her anyway. But so I think that there's, on our side of things, obviously we deal very much with the professional side of things, particularly the affiliate owner and otherwise. And no doubt about it, I think if you know anything about us, we believe the affiliate model to be perfect, and it must be protected at all costs. That's really the essence of what we do with affiliate. And the reason that it's perfect is that it offers just enough individuality and flexibility to do those exact things. And I think that there's this, I don't know as though it's a democratic sort of urge to like get away from that and kind of standardizing of the procedures, but there's a risk in that, not because it's going to ruin CrossFit, but what has always made CrossFit so great is just its incessant ability to produce high level coaches at scale. And really, I think that a lot of that is at risk when we start standardizing, but I think it's a fantastic resource to get to some standardization, so you can look, so we have a pillar, a beacon of like, this is good, at least being somewhere in this region. But like you said, don't go blindlessly. And then just stop writing lesson plans and stop doing your own personal development, because you have that thing, and otherwise you just become reliant on it. But that aside, what is fascinating to me is that we get no shortage of affiliate owners, student affiliates who are in dire shape, right? They're not making enough money, or they want to charge more money. And now everybody and their brother is offering to send them more leads and all these things. And so like every affiliate owner is essentially after the same solution, which is, I need to make more money. I need to charge more money. And it's fascinating to me just how few of them actually really truly care about the actual commodities that they sell, which is that class, right? I'm like, well, Most of them would agree, I think, that like there's some degree of insecurity about the quality of the product that they put out, right? Or else they think, arrogantly that the product is great because CrossFit itself, it's perfect, right? It works every single time, even when it's done poorly. There's just better versions of it. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you have to stop trying to improve your ability to deliver it. And so if you want to charge more money, you might want to work on the people who deliver your product for you, the ones that are doing the oil changes. You might want to work on their ability to improve that skill set. And there's no easier way to do it regularly or daily and consistently than the lesson plan. So for me, that's my opinion of the situation. I know we agree on it, but if everybody else doesn't agree, you can just stop listening right now. There's no democracy here.
No, I the service is everything. It's like, to your point, that you can do CrossFit wrong for a really long time and it's effective. It is really true. And I really like what you said about the affiliate being beautiful, the model, because I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, there are some non-negotiables, not just for CrossFit, but for the fitness industry in general. And that's, don't hurt people, help them get healthier, get them fitter, and make sure they have a good time and they feel like they're part of something that's bigger than them. I mean, they are non-negotiables. That's like,
for sure.
So just do that. And if what you're offering is not allowing for that, i.e. people are getting hurt, they're getting too sore too often, they're being segregated from different like communities within a class, right? You've got your heavy lifters, you've got your fire breathers, you've got your newbies. I'm like, what is it? It's not high school. We're all doing the same thing. Like, no one's part of a special club in here. And the only club we are part of that's special, it's called CrossFit, and that's what we're doing. And so if what you're giving, maybe you're very successful at doing like a non-traditional CrossFit way of programming. Okay, great. I'm all for it. But just make sure you're looking back and your people's hips are good and their shoulders are good and they're continuing to get better at all the three modalities, and they're eating well and they come work out 4 or 5 times a week. Like that's great. But if you're not looking back and you're not assessing on those things, because that is the results that we promise, right? Health and fitness and longevity and being able to sit down and stand up until you're, on your deathbed, then we got to change some things. And that's where I stand with it.
Yeah, I think like EC, when she was on, she kind of, was a not so subtle reminder, because she can be not so subtle in some of her delivery. But, it's getting back to that thing that I feel like, I wouldn't say the affiliates have forgotten it, but maybe it gets overlooked because we do get so busy and they're so responsive. But like the beauty and the elegance of CrossFit is that, does it improve fitness? If yes, move forward. If not, cease, right? Like that's always been the thing. And it's fascinating because so few affiliates test and retest, right? Like there's no matter what you do, as long as beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are improving their fitness, it's working. Is there a better way though? That's the piece that I think is missing from a lot of people, because there's not a lot of rethinking. Because like we were just saying, CrossFit can work to almost any degree, no matter how it's done. But your ability to essentially step back from it and objectively measure, am I doing it the best of my ability? Am I delivering the product as best as I can? I don't really know how you would do that without really truly taking a look at the method through which you do that, which is literally the lesson plan. Like it's like being like, oh, you're measuring your service level for the mechanic, but like if you had no idea what the mechanic was doing for service and they were just kind of banging around under the hood, you'd be like, well, the car's fixed ish, right? I don't know if it could be fixed better. And so I think that there's a lot to be said there about that, and we'll probably, because I'll take up the whole thing, because you and I will go for hours on lesson plans clearly, and really just quality of product, because I think we just care about CrossFit so much. But I want to talk about you've now.
Well, Tony, sorry, real quick, just on the lesson plan before. I also think that they can be way overdone, and I'm guilty of that. I have gone way off the deep end. Your lesson plan can be as simple as at 5 minutes, I need to be moving on to specific. For specific, we're going to make sure that we work on vertical torso in the push press. I got to be moving on to this at this time. Just as long as you have a guide, and back to your point about, did the lesson plan help make the thing come alive on the dance floor? you can then look back and be like, whoa, well, I took a lot longer on that thing that I thought was only going to take this time. Or, oh gosh, I really wanted this to be the focus, but when I looked at the class, the common fault was actually this thing. And maybe, so I should have probably focused on that. So it's a way of self-assessing, because it'd be beautiful if we could constantly get feedback, but that's not always the case. So this is how you create a baseline, and then you know where to pivot from so you can continue to get better.
Yeah, it's the epitome of the elegance, right? Because like,
it's so elegant,
for sure.
Yeah.
You could absolutely put an entire concerto together, and then all of a sudden the strings, you're like, oh, those sound terrible, right? Like,
right.
And I get it, but again, without being able to look at the objective system of writing lesson plans, you would have there's no way you would ever reflect on that, right? You just be like, it's just good class, bad class. The people leave today, like nobody really ever leaves a CrossFit class being like, that one sucked, unless like it was like heavy day and they didn't PR, but like that's on them, right?
Yeah, but, and there's also, I'll throw this out for your coaches real quick. If you want to know if you're doing the right thing by the people in front of you, ask them come up to you at the end and tell you how many times you interacted with them on a one-on-one basis, or how many times you use their name. Because I said that once. I was at CrossFit New England for a while, and they've got a fantastic community, and they have really big classes, but the gym's not huge, so you got 20 to 25 people, and that's a lot, and there can be a lot going on. So I said to them one time, because I wanted to be held accountable, I was like, my job is to come around to you at least 2, 3, 4, hopefully 5 times within this hour and check in on you to make sure that I have the reps right and the scale right and whatnot. So at the end of this class, if I did not interact with you at all, definitely come and see me. But even if I only interacted you with like maybe 2 times, please come see me, because that's going to tell me, am I able to handle this size of a class? One, because it might be that I'm not. I mean, that's hard. One person, 25 people. I mean, you could be the best in the world, and that's just, or maybe I need to look at how I'm moving myself around the room. Do I always go right when I go to observe reps? All right, guys, and boom, I'm off to the right. What about my people on the left? So I'd say that. Ask them. Did I talk to you? Did I come and say hi? Because I guarantee a lot of people, their members will leave and they're like, oh, I didn't even know Lisa was in class today. Oops.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. I mean, yeah, it's feedback is one of those things where I think everybody's like in the community, they think that they're after feedback, but if you step back and you look at it objectively, there's a lot more opportunities where they're hiding from that feedback, as opposed to like looking for areas to get that feedback to improve that skill set.
Seek it out. Seek it out.
Yeah, there's 2 types of people. I've said it at every seminar: those who seek education and those who seek validation. And there's a lot of people who stand in front of the floor who don't want to necessarily improve; they just want to be told they did a good job. Which I guess leads us into the next conversation, which I know we've definitely gone a long time, so maybe this definitely ensures that I get you back on here. But you found yourself in possession recently of the CDP course, the Coach Development Program. So tell us a little bit about what the intention is there. There's nobody better in my mind to have that control. So I love that you've got it. So tell us a little bit about that. What's the intention there? And then really where you see that fitting in the community.
Yeah, well, like I said, when we were putting on level 2s, we kept getting asked, hey, can you come watch us coach a class? Can you come? Like, how do we get more feedback? And even at Reebok CrossFit 1, we will get people emailing us, can we come and watch your classes and just take them and just observe? So actually, if you ask Austin this, he'll say it was something different, but Ash actually was the mastermind behind the whole thing, because we had somebody that wanted to come up from New Jersey to watch our classes for a week. And Ash was like, I still have the napkin in pencil from like 2015, 2016. She's like, oh, you should make it into like a program or something. And I actually wasn't there that week. And one of our coaches took this individual through, and he was great. And then from there, Austin and I thought we should formalize it and start the Reebok CrossFit 1 coach development program. So people would come, and I mean from all over the world. We had a guy from Russia.
I remember that actually, yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't speak English. We used Google Translate. It was wonderful. And but the goal was always to bring it under CrossFit's umbrella. So eventually we got CrossFit did take it, and we started to scale it out to different parts of the world too. And then Greg made the call to, you'll remember this probably with gymnastics, Greg made the call to hand back the SMEs to their original owners. And so we took it back, and then, COVID hit and whatnot. But the intention behind it was this: let's get real-time coaching in a real-life class. Let's unmask all the weaknesses that are shadowed by the comfort of your own gym. Come to our gym, coach people you don't know, work with equipment that you're not used to. You have to count the barbells. Yeah, you have to know spacing, because the best coaches in the world can really show up in any gym, and those are the questions that they're asking. So they would come, and get real uncomfortable, and they were always great. And we would just give them some real honest feedback. And you talk about the vastness of CrossFit, and that there's a lot to do. And we just realized that we got really good at evaluating classes and giving feedback and showing them how to organize. And that's what it is. It's kind of like the in and out of coaching development. It's like, there's no like bells and whistles on this course. You're going to come, we're going to watch your class, and based on the 6 criteria that we use at the level 2, we're going to objectively measure where we can, and we're going to write down what did and did not happen, and we're going to give you some tips to get better. And we're just going to keep rinsing and repeating, and we're going to stick to the fundamentals. And once you've mastered those, which we never will, because you're not going to get the one person squatting the same, we'll move on. And we actually even talked a little bit about the business, not a lot. If they had questions, we would help them with what we knew, a little bit of leadership, development, team building. But it's a coaching course. Like, you are going to coach, and you're going to get feedback in front of the other people in the group. And during your class, you might just get stopped completely, where we stop and we do a drill. And so, yeah, it's a very kind of invasive. I don't want to say aggressive, but it's not for the faint-hearted, because we just don't have time. We don't have a year with these people. It's like, you're coming here for us to tell you what you need to be better at. And we will give you a little thumbs up on the things you're good at, but be ready for some honest feedback.
It's the epitome of CrossFit, right? I mean, the thing that we all come to learn and to respect out of our time in CrossFit is that, it's the uncomfortable things that produce the results. And it's funny, through the coaching world, there's definitely maybe it's a hope that, like, you could just get to a point of comfort in coaching. But, I've always told people forever, like, the day you stop worrying that you're an imposter, the day you feel like you have this thing mastered, please quit. And, like, you don't belong here anymore. And I don't mean that to be harsh, but, like, it's the truth, because the last thing we need is more assholes in the community who think they know everything. Like, I think the thing that, what makes a great coach great is that they're essentially a student of life. And it's funny how few will put themselves in an environment, and you kind of nailed it, right? Like, what are you hiding behind in your familiar gym and in your familiar classes? Because you'd be surprised just how much of it you're not paying attention to, right? For, like, you've done it. Like, there's nothing that will prepare you for development or advancement quite like getting dropped off on a plane in a country where you can't read the road signs, get to the gym, and now you've got 30 people in the room who you have to communicate with through a language barrier. And you're like, I can't even use my jokes anymore, right? Like, that level of, like, you talk about being able to coach anywhere sort of thing is such a great thing. So I think that the resource, especially the iteration that you're putting out now, is not only, fortuitous and serendipitous in this timing, especially with the L4 now being re-released. Like, everybody wants to get to that point, right? Where, like, L1, L2, maybe everybody drops off, they get that L3, but the L3 is still safe in a private test, right? Like, you're not caught with your pants down with that one. If you can just fail in private.
Well, it's a test of knowledge. It's a test of knowledge, right? It's not what's happening.
Right.
But to the level 4, to that point, Tony, I'm glad you brought it up, because that's what you're going to be handed. You're going to be handed a room full of people you don't know in a gym you've never been to. And how prepared are you going into that? I'm currently mentoring a couple of people for the level 4, and I tell them, look, I'm going to work with you, and I know your end goal is to pass the level 4, but I hope by the end of this, I change your mindset into your end goal is to be a freaking amazing coach. Because if you go through this to be a good coach, you'll pass the level 4. But if you're just on this, first of all, I'm not going to take you on as a client if all you want to do is pass a test. Like, I'm not interested in that. just last night I was down in Providence with a guy, and I've been to his gym a few times, and he just keeps getting better. And it's a lot of coaches are actually so much better than they're showing. They just can't see, like, you see that, right? Like, you just walk, you see it. Yeah, but I'm like, there's no but. Make that person better. Help them. Coach them like you everything that matters about that movement. And I think if you want to pass the level 4, you got to get out your comfort zone, and you have got to go coach at some other gyms and get a mentor. And because let me tell you, that's the test. That's the test of tests. And if you're just so cozy in your affiliate, being like, I know Tony, he struggles going below parallel, and Lisa, sometimes she can't get the bar over her head, and that's just what she does. Oh, no. You got to go in there and try and help them get down there, because if that's not happening, they're going to be like, are you challenging? It's a beast. So you got to be ready.
Yeah. And I think that, back to the original point when we were talking about with your story, your coming of age, it's like, it's the free to be yourself conversation. Hopefully, maybe this is just, I have a romantic notion. Every coach that I know of who wants to become a coach, not just a trainer, but anybody who wants to become a coach, they're here because they really have this ability to believe in people when they don't believe in themselves, and to be that belief when they need it, because it's hard to believe in yourself most times. And that is the obligation to be a coach. It's not just to be a trainer. And in order for that to happen, you have to be relentless, right? You have to be willing to have the uncomfortable conversations. You have to be willing to challenge people to get to that point of conflict so that you can create resolution. And it's interesting how few coaches really want to do that, because
they're afraid too. They're afraid. I'm like, I don't know anybody that would ever get mad at you for trying to make their joints not hurt as much, or make sure that their range of motion is going to be nice and fluid until the day they die, or you want them to take weight off the bar because you don't want them to hurt themselves. And it's how you approach that. But we are the coaches are the problem, and they're the solution. And it's as simple as that. You're creating problems by not addressing these things.
For sure.
So get in there and help people and educate them and inspire them to, all the taglines, but inspire them to expect more of themselves. That's what we do in the 4 walls of that gym. We do hard things, and hard things sometimes means taking some weight off the bar and getting below parallel.
Yeah, if you can't be the person you want to be, and instead you're just the person you think you're supposed to be, I don't know how you're going to get other people to be the version of themselves that they're not currently yet, right? And I think there's so much greatness that happens in the world of coaching, but there's also a bit of a curse in that the ubiquitous use of the word coach definitely gets us all in who's actually a coach, who's not a coach. And I'd love to talk about that, but we're already an hour. So so TDP is now basically, it's up and functioning, correct? People can learn more about it. I think that it's great because hopefully a lot of people sign up for the L4 and they're going to get kicked in the teeth. And that's the fun of it. Don't shy away from that part of it, especially if you want to be a coach. And I think it will spit a lot of people out. I say this as somebody who has no intention of taking the L4, just saying. But I don't step in front of rooms of classes anymore. Unfortunately, I haven't coached a class in years at this point. But so where do they find more about it? How do they get more information about it? How do they become the best version of a coach in Denise's eyes? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, we have a website that's, it's really just a landing page to register, but it's coachdevelopmentprogram.com, and the Instagram is Coach Development Prog, P-O-R-G, not the full program. And we travel. We try to do about 6 a year, where we travel to other states or other parts of the world and put on an affiliate package, which is a 3 to 3.5 day bonanza, where we come in and we'll work with all your coaches. Or we can do a 3-day piece where it could be independent coaches coming in, or we do a 1-day thing. Also just some online stuff too. But it's all there. All they got to do is reach out to us and let us know what they need, and we'll let them know if we can serve them. But we would turn people down. We're not interested in taking your money if you're not willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. Not against pushback, love a pushback, love the debate, but the disrespect and the unwillingness to see that there could be another way, you can keep your money. We're not going to take that. So as long as you're a good person and you want to get better for the people that trust you to take care of them, we'll take you on.
I love that. Sounds very familiar to the process here. We joke and say, if we won't drink beers with you, I won't take you as a client. Not that you need to be an alcoholic, nor that we drink a lot, but my favorite part of this podcast actually is that you were able to put bonanza into a sentence, because it's such a great word that I actually don't really think much about, but I will sign up for a bonanza.
Well, that's what it is. It's madness. Yeah. It's just a whole bonanza. It's wild. Yeah.
I love it. Well, no, I love it. I think that you are the perfect person, the perfect identity, and the perfect personality to be. I know you to be that sort of, relentless, but also just infectious personality to be. So I'm very happy to see that, CDP is within your responsibility. I think that's great. I think that with the L4 being out, it's for sure now going to be, if it wasn't already on their radar, I think having access to the L4 and then, maybe potentially going through it, they'll definitely be like, maybe I have some weak spots. So I'm very glad that that's out. Hopefully, we can, through this podcast, you guys are willing to put yourselves out there and be vulnerable enough to improve your skill set, because at the core of this whole thing, all of the pricing, all of the marketing, all of the conversations don't matter until the people who provide the fucking product actually do it the best of their ability. But that seems to be overlooked a lot of times for being like, what about Facebook ads? No, stop. Until you fix the thing that you're trying to do, you don't want more people in the room.
What about this new picture, this new poster, I want to put in my gym, we need a new sign. That's it.
That's exactly what it is. And we need a new reverse hyper. Yeah. So everybody can put their drinks on it, and new jerk blocks too while you're at it. Cause that's definitely going to improve fitness at scale in a class of 15 to 30 people. Well, listen, we've already spent a lot of time. I think I speak for everybody in the audience, I hope, but you're definitely coming back on, mostly because I love spending time with you. And I'll definitely come out and spend time with you and Ash because I miss her as well. What do you want to give as a piece of parting information? I have so many questions that I actually wrote down to ask you, but we're going to run out of time, so we'll do it again. But what piece of information would you like to give to everybody? What would you like to ask of the audience in response, or how do they get more information? How do they follow the one and only Denise Thomas?
Well, I just honestly just want to say thank you to your Fit Affiliate community for investing time, money, emotions into a product that's going to help you be better. And I think we all need mentors, all of us. And that imposter syndrome is real. I have it every single day I coach. And not having a mentor and a guide is a mistake. So the investment is appreciated. And whatever you guys are doing out there, just keep doing it, because you're changing and saving lives. And we don't take that lightly. We got some work to do, so we're all in it together. And if there's anything I can do to help, you know where to find me. I'd love to have that conversation.
I love it. Now I got goosebumps. Although Beatrice is still uninterested. Well, perfect. So we appreciate you. I mean, it's great to have people like you in the community, but that's the best part about CrossFit is it's our collection of great people, and I think we do take care of our own. If we have to do it ourselves, we'll do it ourselves. But you're definitely coming back on, so you're kind of screwed there. So sorry, I'm going to hold you hostage for a future.
I can't wait.
Awesome. And I could sit and listen to you guys chat all day. Like it's awesome. So thanks for your time today, and I do look forward to having you back again real soon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to the Fit Affiliate podcast. If you would be interested in hopping on a free call with us to just kind of chat about what you think your problems are and what you think the gap is between where you're at and where you want to go, we can see if maybe we can help you along that journey, figure out if we're all a good fit to do some sweet things together. So click the link, set up a consult. Let's help you identify some problems that we can mutually solve.